That evening, I didn't come just to congratulate Emily. I came to confirm my suspicions. She had rented a big country house about an hour outside the city for her birthday. Said it was, for the team, some sort of thank you celebration for her coworkers after a successful quarter. But the second I pulled into the gravel driveway and saw the luxury cars lined up like showroom pieces, my stomach started to turn. This wasn't a casual team hangout. This was a scene. The place looked like something off Airbnb's Dream Escapes page. String lights in the trees, a fire pit going out back, music pulsing from inside the glass-paneled living room. I spotted a bartender serving cocktails at a portable bar, and trays of catered appetizers being passed around by people in black aprons. This wasn't casual. This was curated. I walked in holding a small bouquet I picked up from a gas station along the way. Lame, I know, but Emily always said she liked the cheap ones better than anything wrapped in foil. Said they felt more honest. The music inside was loud enough that the glass windows were practically shaking. But it wasn't just the sound that made me feel off. It was the energy. Everyone in that room knew something I didn't. I felt it the second I stepped inside. A few heads turned, and people exchanged glances like they were trying to figure out who I was. And then I saw her, Emily. She was standing near the back of the room, next to the fireplace, in a tight navy blue dress I hadn't seen before. Her hair was curled in that soft, effortless way she usually reserved for weddings or major events. She was laughing at something, a real laugh, head tilted slightly back, and then I saw him, Dylan, her boss, standing directly behind her. His hand was on her waist, not hovering, not in passing, holding, gripping, like he belonged there. And the worst part? She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She didn't step away. She didn't even look like she noticed. That told me more than I wanted to know. He leaned in close, too close, and whispered something into her ear. She turned her face slightly toward him, smiling. Her body leaned back, just a little against his chest. It looked like muscle memory, like they'd done this before. That was the moment everything went silent for me. Not literally, of course. The music kept pounding, people kept laughing, but in my head, it was like the sound dropped out. All I could hear was the thud of my heartbeat as I stood there, frozen. Then, as if on cue, Emily's eyes lifted. She saw me. Her whole expression changed in a split second, from relaxed to startled to sweet. Too sweet. The kind of sweet that tastes like artificial sugar. She stepped away from Dylan, casually, like nothing had just happened, and walked toward me with that wide, stage-ready smile she used whenever she wanted to smooth things over fast. "Babe," she said, arms outstretched like she was surprised and thrilled to see me, even though I was supposed to be there. "You made it." I let her hug me, but I didn't hug her back. She leaned in and kissed my cheek. Loud, deliberate, like she wanted everyone in the room to see. I could feel her voice against my ear when she whispered, "Don't make a scene. It's not what it looked like." My jaw clenched. I didn't say anything. She pulled back, still smiling, still performing, and turned to the room. "This is Mark, everyone. My boyfriend. Some of you haven't met him yet." A few people raised their drinks or gave me half-hearted nods. One guy clapped. Dylan didn't say a word. He stayed where he was, glass in hand, watching me like I was the entertainment for the night. I didn't move. Emily looped her arm through mine and tugged me toward the crowd. "Come say hi to some people from the team," she said, like we hadn't just locked eyes across a moment of betrayal. "We've got old fashions at the bar. They're actually really good." I didn't respond. I was too busy watching her, trying to figure out who this person was. I said her name quietly, just loud enough for her to hear over the music. "Emily." She turned toward me, that same smile still plastered on. "I saw him," I said. Her smile flickered just for a fraction of a second. Then she smoothed it back on. "He was helping me with the decorations," she said. "The lanterns were falling earlier, and I almost tripped. It looked weird, I know, but trust me, you're reading into it." "You didn't even move away," I said. "Because it wasn't a thing?" she replied, still smiling, her teeth clenched behind the words. Don't start something here, okay? This night is important to me. I'm not starting anything, I said. I'm just trying to understand. She leaned in again, whispering quickly, you can either enjoy the party or make it worse. Your call. Then she turned back toward the crowd and tugged me forward. I let her lead me, but my eyes went back to Dylan. He was talking to someone now, smiling like he had nothing to worry about, like none of this would come back to him. I kept watching him. He never looked back at me. The rest of the night was a blur. I don't even remember what music was playing, or who I talked to, or what anyone said. I smiled when I needed to. I laughed in the right places. But inside, something had cracked open. I stood there with a drink in my hand, surrounded by people I didn't know and didn't care to meet, wondering how many of them knew. How many had seen what I saw and just accepted it. At one point, I caught a woman from the design team, someone Emily had mentioned in passing, looking at me with a mix of pity and discomfort. When our eyes met, she looked away. That told me everything. Later, after most of the guests had filtered out and the fire pit was down to glowing embers, I sat outside on one of the wooden chairs, watching the last trails of smoke spiral into the air. Emily came out and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. You've been quiet, she said softly. I didn't look at her. I didn't know he was coming. I lied. I thought this was your birthday. It was my birthday, she replied, a little too quickly. I just didn't want to make it about me this year. The team deserved a celebration. Does the team usually put their hands on your waist? She sighed. Mark, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. I just saw something tonight. That's all. Then unsee it. She snapped, then softened. Please, can we just go home and talk about it tomorrow? That's when I knew she wasn't going to admit it. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. She sat next to me, close but not touching, and we stared at the fire together like nothing had happened. But something had, and no matter how many decorations they hung or smiles they performed, the night had changed. It had started as a celebration, but it ended as confirmation. The morning after Emily's birthday, I stared at the ceiling for over an hour before even moving. She was still asleep beside me, her breathing steady, peaceful, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't watched her boss touch her in a way no boss should. I didn't say anything as I got up, just showered, dressed, and left the house before she could even open her eyes. I needed space, or maybe I needed distance from the version of reality she kept trying to sell me. The one where I was paranoid, insecure, reading into things. But as I sat at a corner booth in a diner half a mile from home, sipping coffee I couldn't taste, one thought kept echoing in my head. It had been happening right in front of me, and somehow I'd missed it. Or maybe I didn't miss it. Maybe I just didn't want to believe what was already clear. The signs weren't sudden. They had started appearing months ago, like small cracks in the paint of a wall I didn't realize was rotting underneath. It began with her schedule. Emily had always had a busy job, but there was a rhythm to it. Meetings during the day, dinners at home, the occasional weekend project. But lately, she started using words like late client call, surprise audit, emergency deck. She began coming home at odd hours, past 10, past 11, sometimes not until midnight. When I asked, she'd say things like, we're trying to impress a new investor, or the team is stretched thin right now. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Except something was off. Her energy was different when she came home, less drained, more distant. Her eyes were unfocused. Her voice would trail when she told me about her day, like she was replaying someone else's version of events. And her phone. God, her phone used to sit face up on the kitchen counter while we cooked dinner or watched shows. Now it was always screen down, always on silent. And when it buzzed, she'd grab it like it was something fragile, sacred. Once, I walked past the bathroom while she was showering. The water was running, but I heard the click of the lock on her phone. She was using it in there mid-shower, and when she saw me in the hallway, she flinched, smiled, said she was checking a Spotify playlist. That didn't make sense. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded, smiled back, and walked away like an idiot. Then there was the gym. She suddenly started waking up early to run. Not just jogs, full-on workouts. She bought new clothes, a fitness tracker, started eating differently. Claimed she wanted to feel strong. Said she was building back confidence. I thought it was great. I supported her. I even joked that I'd join her one day, but she waved it off with a laugh. You hate cardio. She started wearing perfume I didn't recognize. Something floral, sharp, mature. It wasn't the soft, vanilla one she used to keep on the dresser. The one she wore on our third date, the one I said reminded me of spring. This one was different. So were her clothes. Not all the time. Just here and there. Sleek blazers, fitted dresses, heels I hadn't seen before. She said it was client-facing stuff. But her company was a startup. They wore hoodies and slides to meetings. When I asked where the clothes came from, she'd say she found a great sale, or that she was finally treating herself. I told myself it was normal. She was just evolving. People change. But then came the weekends. Team offsite. 2-day leadership retreat. Strategy alignment session. Always in places just far enough away to make it inconvenient to join. Always at hotels with rooftop lounges. Always returning just a little too rested, a little too light. After one of those trips, she came back with a tan line and a new necklace. From a local shop, she said. The girls and I found it walking around. I nodded. She never wore it again. Now, sitting in that booth with my untouched eggs congealing in front of me, everything came flooding back. Like puzzle pieces I had shoved under the couch finally sliding into place. I had made excuses for her. Over and over. I had wanted to believe she was just tired. Or distant because of work stress. Or spending time with a mentor. But she wasn't. She was somewhere else. With someone else. And I, the man who once knew her laugh in a crowded room, who knew what songs made her cry, who watched her fall asleep during movies and carried her to bed, was suddenly the outsider in her life. I could feel it in the way she touched me now, calculated, brief, performative. Like a person rehearsing int asterisk Macy. Like a kiss was a scheduled task. I remembered one night, maybe 2 months ago. We were watching a movie on the couch. She fell asleep halfway through, or at least I thought she had. I moved to brush hair from her face, and she pulled away. Just a flinch. Barely noticeable. But now I remembered it clearly. Like her body knew something before her words admitted it. Even the dog noticed. Our lab, Daisy, used to run to the door when Emily came home. But over the last few weeks, she stopped. She barely lifted her head off the couch. Dogs know. People know too. I thought about the way Emily's friend Nadia had looked at me during dinner a few weeks ago. Overly polite, overly kind. Like she was apologizing without saying it. I didn't want to admit it then. But now I knew. Everyone knew. Except me. Or maybe I did know. Maybe deep down. I'd been holding my breath for weeks. Hoping the truth wasn't what it seemed. Hoping I was just insecure. But I wasn't. I was waking up. And nothing. Not her explanations, not the birthday party, not even the carefully worded lies, could put me back to sleep again. It happened on a Friday. The kind of gray-skied, slow-burning day where everything feels like it's waiting to go wrong. Emily kissed me that morning before heading out. Soft, fast, mechanical. The kind of kiss you give someone when you're late, not when you love them. I'm staying late tonight, she said over her shoulder as she grabbed her laptop bag. We've got a big presentation Monday. It'll probably be a long one. I didn't ask questions. I just nodded like always. She wore a dark green blazer I hadn't seen before. The sleeves rolled up, her hair pinned in that slightly undone way that somehow made her look more expensive. Her perfume lingered in the hallway after the door shut. Sharp, citrusy. Not the kind she used to wear. I watched her car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. Then I sat at the kitchen table, just staring at my coffee. A part of me wanted to let it go. To keep pretending this was all just stress. Overthinking. Some weird coincidence that would resolve itself if I waited long enough. But another part of me, the part that had been ignored too long, was done waiting. That afternoon, I logged into our joint bank account. We'd always shared finances. It wasn't even something we discussed, it just felt right at the time. I never snooped, didn't have a reason to. But that day, something told me to look. Scrolling through the transaction history, I saw the usual: groceries, gas, streaming subscriptions. Then I saw it. A charge from a hotel downtown. The Westmere. One of those sleek, glassy places with rooftop bars and rooms that cost more per night than I used to pay for rent. The timestamp read 7:43 p.m. that night, under miscellaneous services. I stared at the screen so long the text started to blur. She had just told me that morning she'd be at the office all evening, working. And here was a charge under our shared account, the one we both swore was for serious expenses only, at a hotel. I didn't think. I just moved. Keys, jacket, no plan, just instinct. The drive downtown was a blur. Every red light felt like a taunt, every second a wait. I didn't even know what I was doing, what I'd say, what I'd do if I saw her. But I had to see it for myself, because part of me, the last desperate part still holding on, needed to be proven wrong. I parked 2 blocks away. Didn't want her to see my car. The Westmere had glass walls that wrapped around the building like it was showing off. A boutique hotel for executives, influencers, people who needed strangers to notice them. I stood across the street, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the 4th floor. That's where the corner rooms were, the ones with panoramic windows. And then I saw her. She was standing near the window, backlit by soft yellow light. Emily, wearing that same green blazer. And she wasn't alone. Dylan was there too. His silhouette was unmistakable, tall, broad-shouldered. That same confident posture he always had at company events, like the room was his. He stood behind her, close, one hand resting on the small of her back. She leaned into him. Then, slowly, she tilted her head up toward his. He bent down and their foreheads touched, just for a second. Then she kissed him. Not fast, not impulsive. It was slow, familiar, like they'd done it 100 times. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood there on the sidewalk, hands shaking inside my coat pockets, watching my girlfriend kiss her boss through a pane of glass like I wasn't even real. It didn't feel like a betrayal. It felt like watching a play where I was never cast. Like I was an understudy who thought I was the lead, only to find out the role had already been filled. I kept thinking, say something, do something, go in there, yell, demand an explanation. But I didn't, because this wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't bad judgment. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was muscle memory. She knew how to hold him, how to kiss him, how to be with him. And it wasn't guilt I saw on her face. It was peace. She looked calm, steady, whole, like someone who had already made her decision. That's when it hit me. I was no longer part of her story. I was just an extra, the person she returned to after the real scenes had already played out. I stayed there in the rain for almost 10 minutes, watching, not even caring if someone saw me. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry, just hollow, like someone had emptied me out, and all that was left was the echo of who I used to be. Eventually, I turned around and walked back to my car. The engine struggled in the cold, but I didn't mind. The drive home was quiet. When I walked through the front door, everything looked the same. The shoes by the mat, the framed photo of us at the lake house, the half-eaten bag of chips on the counter. Nothing looked out of place. But everything was wrong. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the spot where she'd sleep later, the same spot she used to curl into when her day went bad. She would walk through that door like nothing happened. She would smile, say the presentation went well, maybe even kiss me goodnight. But I had seen the truth. I had seen it. There was no more denying, no more guessing, no more hoping, and somehow that clarity hurt worse than the doubt ever did. She walked in the next morning like nothing had happened. The front door creaked open around 7:12 a.m. I was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee I hadn't tasted and flipping the same page in a newspaper for the 3rd time. Her footsteps were light, casual. Her keys clinked against the ceramic bowl by the door. I didn't look up. "Hey," she said softly, setting her bag down. "Didn't think you'd be up this early." I waited 2 seconds before answering. Couldn't sleep. She hesitated in the doorway, like she was measuring the temperature of the room. Yeah, me neither. Long night. I almost laughed. Long night. That was one way to put it. She poured herself coffee. Didn't bother to ask if I wanted more. She didn't notice mine was cold. I was at the office till midnight, she said, stirring sugar into her cup with a teaspoon that clicked louder than usual. Presentation prep took longer than expected. I nodded once. Makes sense. And that was it. That was the extent of her lie. No details. No panic. Just a line delivered like she'd practiced it in the mirror. She was smooth. I'll give her that. She sat across from me, crossed one leg over the other, took a sip, and winced. We're out of oat milk. I said nothing. She leaned back in the chair and sighed, stretching like someone recovering from a long shift. I watched her movements, studied them, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way she tucked hair behind her ear, the way she avoided looking at me too long. She was playing a part, and she was good at it. That morning, I realized something. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shocked. I was curious. Curious how far she'd go. How many scenes she could act through without breaking character. So I decided to match her energy. Pretend I didn't know. Not because I was weak, but because I wanted to see the full scope of the lie. I wanted to let her build the whole set before I tore down the curtain. We talked about dinner that night like it was any other day. She suggested stir-fry. I offered to pick up groceries. She smiled and said that sounded great. She kissed my cheek before leaving for work. I didn't flinch. And then I watched her walk away again, her hair swaying behind her, heels clicking down the front steps. That night I cooked. She came home late again, not midnight late, but just enough to keep me guessing. She said she had to take a call from a potential client. I nodded, asked if the call went well. She said it did. That Dylan really pulled the deck together. His name came out of her mouth so easily, like they weren't tangled together in a hotel suite less than 24 hours ago. She complimented the stir-fry, said it was better than takeout, poured herself a glass of wine, talked about a new hire in accounting. She was comfortable, effortless, and all I could think about was how many times she'd done this, how many nights she'd come home, smiled at me, kissed me, laughed at something on TV, and all the while, someone else's hands had been on her just hours before. The next few days followed the same script. Wake up, coffee, small talk, her leaving for work, me pretending to believe her. We became actors in a domestic play, hitting our marks, reciting our lines. She asked about my day. I told her I was thinking of starting a project in the garage. She asked if I wanted to take a weekend trip. I said maybe. She wore a new dress on Wednesday. Said it was for a company mixer. It wasn't. I could tell because the tag was still on it, and she spent 15 extra minutes choosing earrings. When I offered to drive her to the mixer, she laughed. Said Dylan was already picking everyone up. I watched her Uber drive away. Checked the app after she left. She hadn't gone to the venue, she said. She went downtown again. I didn't follow this time. I didn't need to. I already knew the ending. But I wanted her to keep going. Because somewhere inside me, I hoped she'd stop. That she'd trip over her own lie, fall apart at the dinner table, confess. But she didn't. She got better, sharper, more convincing. Even her body language adjusted. When she touched my arm, it felt lighter, like she was learning how to give just enough to seem sincere without meaning it. She even left her phone out once, face down. I flipped it over when she was in the shower. There were no messages, just a new app one didn't recognize, hidden in a folder called Utilities. When I opened it, it asked for a password. I set the phone down, screen down, just like she left it. That night, she wore lingerie, black, lace, subtle. She hadn't done that in months, maybe longer. She said she wanted to reconnect, said she missed me. I looked into her eyes and saw nothing. No guilt, no shame, just control. She was managing the situation, and I played along. After, she curled into me inside, saying, "See, we're still good." I didn't answer. She fell asleep quickly, like someone who had succeeded, and I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, wondering how long I could do this, how long I could play dumb without becoming it. But the truth was, I wasn't doing this for her. I was doing it for me, to study her, to observe the unraveling up close, to see in full detail who she really was when she thought no one could see through her. I wanted to know the depth of the performance, and I wanted to know when it would finally crack. Because performances, no matter how flawless, always fall apart. Eventually, it arrived on a Thursday, mid-morning, ordinary in every way except for what it carried. No return address, no stamps, just a slim manila envelope on our welcome mat, sealed with clear tape and folded in half like someone had done it in a hurry. I almost didn't see it. I had just opened the front door to grab a package Emily said was arriving, some new serum or makeup thing she'd ordered during her self-care reset, as she called it. I nearly kicked the envelope off the porch. No name, no label, just that thick, neutral color that made it look like a boring work memo. But it wasn't. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No message, no context, just a printed link and a note scribbled in tight, sharp handwriting. You deserve to know before she destroys you too. That was it. No signature, no sender. I stared at the paper for a full minute, brain refusing to catch up. It didn't even register as real at first. It felt like some messed up prank or phishing scam. Something weird from an ex-coworker or a stranger with too much time. But I scanned the link. It wasn't random. It was a direct login to a cloud storage account. A public folder already open, no password needed. I typed it in manually on my laptop, heart pounding, hands cold. And when the page loaded, I stopped breathing. There were dozens of photos, some grainy, some crisp. Most were labeled by date. Some had locations attached. Cities I recognized: Denver, Chicago, Austin, work trips, conferences, leadership retreats. All the same ones Emily had mentioned. All the ones I hadn't been invited to, because they were too hectic or only for department heads. The first photo was harmless. Just Emily standing beside Dylan at a podium, holding a glass of champagne. A little close but passable. The next one, not so much. She was sitting on his lap, laughing, one hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. That same green blazer from presentation night. I clicked the arrow to the next image. A rooftop bar, lit by string lights. Dylan's hand on her thigh, Emily's head resting against his. Their eyes weren't even on the camera. They didn't know they were being photographed. Whoever took these had followed them. And they'd been watching for a while. There were more. Lots more. Hotel lobbies, taxis, hallways, sidewalks, Airbnbs, restaurants we never went to. Her in dresses I never saw at home. Him in the same navy sport coat he wore in the company's LinkedIn banner. And then one image that made my stomach turn. It was from the night of her birthday. There she was, Emily, in her navy blue dress, the one she wore when she told me nothing happened. Mid-laugh, a cocktail in one hand, Dylan's arm around her back. Behind them, near the doorway, was me, holding flowers, standing alone, watching her. The photo was perfectly timed. I looked lost, out of place. The guy who showed up to a celebration that wasn't meant for him. I clicked through the rest of the folder. Some of the images were screen captures from social media, Instagram stories, zoomed-in photos from public posts. Some were surveillance level, candid, uncomfortable, taken from across streets or through glass. Then, near the end, there was a text document. Just a note. Her cloud synced to my old account. I didn't go looking for it. It popped up while I was checking something else. Thought you should know who she really is. I dated her 3 years ago. She cheated then, too. No name. No details. Just that. Her ex. The one she used to call toxic. I sat there for almost an hour, scrolling, clicking, enlarging, shrinking, looking for a flaw, a break, something that would give her the benefit of the doubt. But there was nothing. It was all real, all undeniable. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't one night. It was a timeline, a curated archive, a documentary of betrayal with receipts. And someone out there wanted me to see it. I closed the laptop and just sat back, hands still frozen in typing position. The house felt too quiet. My heart was loud. I looked around at everything that suddenly felt fake. The photos on our wall, the candles she insisted on lighting every evening, the throw blanket she left draped on the armrest, just so. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the orchestration. This was planned, practiced, polished. She knew how to smile through guilt. She knew how to talk about her day without revealing a single detail. She knew how to look me in the eye and say she loved me, while loving someone else in private. I stood up, walked to the fridge, opened it, and stared inside like I was looking for something that could reverse time. All I saw was almond milk, leftover Thai, and a half-used bottle of wine. She would be home in a few hours. She would walk through the door, set her keys in the bowl, sigh like the day had been long, and ask what we should do for dinner. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't even know if I'd say anything. But I knew this. There was no more pretending. Because once you see the full picture, you can't unsee it. And now I had the whole album. The folder led me deeper: receipts, fake names, burner emails. She'd built a second life behind my back, like a project she refined over time. Everything connected: the trips, the trainings, even her calendar had codes. In a message, she called me safe but blind. She was right. I wasn't just betrayed. I was managed. I found a clinic slip in her purse. Pregnant, 8 weeks. The date lined up with that hotel night. I didn't confront her. I just packed, left the keys and divorce papers, and a photo from her birthday. I walked out quietly, and in that silence, for the first time, I felt peace.